If you know Washington wines at all, you know that Columbia Valley is one region and Walla Walla is another. And we got with us right now, we got Ron Williams on the phone with us. He's the ambassador for Walla Walla. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Hey, Mike. Thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good to have you. So, hey, man, I understand it's a really nice day up there today, kind of in the 80s or so?
Well, it's 92 now, and it's going to be hot.
Okay.
100 plus today.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're not like that far different from us down here. We're running through sort of a bit of a heat wave ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Really similar.
Well,
hey, I wish I were sipping a nice Pinot. I'm thinking about that as I'm listening to you. And that's the one varietal that we don't really successfully grow in the Columbia Valley.
Right, a little too warm up there for that, and a lot of our regions are just too warm for it too. Therefore, they move to other grapes. But I understand that Walla Walla is the unofficial capital of Washington wine country, and that there's more than 120 wineries up there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really took off in the we've been growing grapes and really since the 1960s. All the way back to the 1860s, but in earnest, as wine production region really started in the late 1960s, and thanks to a guy named David Clure, and last name by Clure anyway.
Yeah.
Who was part of the Department of Agriculture, and he was sent over to Eastern Washington to figure out what they could grow here besides apples. And he came up with the idea that it would be a really great region, really adapted to growing grapes, wine grapes, and that's when it started. And right now we have about 150 wineries in the Walla Walla Valley, and if I might just make a very slight correction to what you said earlier, we're actually a sub-appellation of the Columbia Valley.
Oh, okay.
So not different from, but part of, and we're the southernmost sub-appellation in the Columbia Valley, and about a third of the Walla Walla AVA actually dips down into Oregon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you for that correction. Yeah, it's funny because here all wine regions are like this, but there'll be sub-AVAs within an AVA, that kind of thing and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Well, I understand, when I went through there years ago as a high school kid, just traveling around the Northwest and over towards Idaho and all that, and went up through Seattle and ended up going through Walla Walla, but that was before I knew about wine and things like that. So I knew it's famous for its onions. Is that still a big crop there?
Yep, they still grow the Walla Walla sweet onion, and that was introduced in the 1800s by a French soldier who brought them from Corsica. That's where they originate. And some of the onion family, some of the families that have been farming onions since the 1880s are still doing it today. And I'll hear from friends who grew up here, and I didn't. I grew up in your part of the world, and they'll say that when they were kids, they would go out into the fields and pull the onions out of the ground and eat them like apples. They were so sweet.
Well, I guess
if bred to get the sweetness out of them, I think, to give them a longer shelf life. They're still sweet, but they're certainly not something you would eat like an apple.
I would have to agree with that.
I wouldn't.
I guess you grow up as a farmer growing onions, and somebody's going to sort of goad you into like, yeah, just go grab one and eat it. Sure, Dad, thanks. Yeah. Well, I understand that people don't actually go to Walla Walla with, they don't just sort of happen across it. They actually have some intention of going there. So other than coming there for onions and, of course, the winery, tell us a little bit about your region in general. I know most people, when you think of Washington, you think of going up Highway 5 from this area of the world anyway, or flying into Seattle area, and sort of the average person's picture, if you will, of what Washington is, Seattle area. Tell us a little bit about where you're at regionally and sort of what brings people to the area.
Well, you were right to say that we're remote and it's an intention. You have to kind of want to be here. And I'm like you. I grew up on the western side of the mountains in California, and we ended up in the Seattle region in the early 1990s. My partner and I, and we spent about 12 years in Seattle, and then finally some friends took us up and over to the other side of the mountains. We had been in Seattle all winter long and hadn't seen the sun in about 3 months, and you get to the top of the Cascade Mountains, which I think is the same chain that you have there, the Sierra Nevada, as it comes up, that rim of fire. And you come up and over the mountains, and all of a sudden the sun came out, and you descend down into the eastern side of the state, and it's sunny and high desert, and very different climate, very different terrain. And keep going east and south, and eventually you drop down into this valley, which is green and lush and surrounded by the Palouse Mountains and the Blue Mountains of the Palouse Valley, and it's really stunning and beautiful, and has its own sort of complete, distinct character. It's been, but we're close to nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's not so bad. I have a friend, that I haven't spoken with in a while, but I keep following him on Facebook, and he moved there recently from another place where there's nothing out there in Yerington, Nevada. I used to run a golf course out there, and that's a high desert region. And anyway, long story short, he ended up moving up to Walla Walla, and I'm no longer there either. But when you say high desert, I thought the elevation was right around 1,000 or 2,000. Where are you at elevation wise? Just curiosity.
We are. You're absolutely right. In Walla Walla, we sit right about the bulk of the town is right about 1,000 feet. So we're not high up. And
okay.
And I think what I probably meant to say was northern climes of the desert. We're at the kind of very northern reaches of what's considered the Great American Desert.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure, of course, yeah. You know
so
what?
We've been kind of cut off from the Sierra Nevada mountains or the Cascade Mountains as you move north.
Right. Well, I just never know where we're going to go with these conversations, but you seem like you know a lot about the area, and so I'm just going to kind of pick your brain as I run through this stuff. But don't you find it fascinating, Ron, how, being from America or being in America, I mean, especially if you're from here, because we all grew up with whatever our American heritage was. But when I look, and I'm on the website right now, one of the Walla Walla websites, and looking at the museum there, kind of reminds me that one of the fascinating things that differentiates us from, say, Europe is we have such a new history. And you think about where you are, and somebody kind of, the original sort of pioneers, not the Indians, of course, they were the originals, but I mean the pioneers that kind of came out and sort of settled America, for better or worse. I mean, they came across in very difficult times and a challenging environment and made it to wherever they were and made a settlement and discovered the dirt was good to grow whatever. And isn't it fascinating, though, to just go to different regions and to see the history of the place and how it was discovered and how it evolved? Oh, yeah.
It's completely different in every little section, I think, of the world, really, in the country. And I was thinking about this earlier, that California and I, growing up in California school system, we learned about the Jesuits who worked their way up the coast and built missions every 20 miles, and the gold rush of 1849, and I was thinking about how that compared to what was going on here when Marcus Whitman and his family were settling in this area and starting a mission, the Whitman Mission, and that was kind of the beginning of it all. There were fur trappers here, well before that, and so the area was sort of known, and we're kind of along the Lewis and Clark Trail and near the Columbia River. So, white settlers had been coming through here from the early 1800s, late 1700s, but just a completely different sort of trajectory and history than what happened not so far from here down in your part of the world.
Yeah.
What made Walla Walla really put it on the map was the discovery that it was such a great place to grow dryland wheat. And while grapes are an incredibly important crop here, wheat is still the most exponentially the most valuable crop grown in the region. There are probably over 100 families in this valley who have had farms for 120, 130 years.
Yeah, that in itself, I mean, where we're at here, and we're at the top of the Central Valley, which, as you know, California is just the breadbasket of the world as well. We got orchards and everything here, basically, all kinds of produce. But to drive by some of these old family farms and see an old hay thrasher or something out in the front that used to be drawn by horses, and you think these guys are driving these big John Deeres now with air conditioning and Bluetooth stereo inside. It's just, man, the grandkids of these guys must feel an appreciation for how hard their ancestors worked at one time.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm actually sitting in my office and I'm looking at a photograph I have on the wall of a combine, a wheat combine on a slope in a field. This is, very hilly areas here, and it's being drawn by, it has to be at least 40 oxen. This combine, just, I just think about how hard that was. And yes, I've been in these combines with the air conditioned, cabins and GPS guiding them, and it's a whole other world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break here, but I want you to stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more about, we're on the phone right now with Ron Williams. He's with Walla Walla Visitor Center, and you're listening to In Search of the Good Life Show. I'm Mike Rayford. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Mike Rayford here. You're listening to In Search of the Good Life. We are a radio show as well as a podcast. You can check us out on MikeTheWineGuy.com. And for all you guys out of the area, you can listen along, as you probably are if you're out of the area right now, on MikeTheWineGuy.com. You just go to Listen Live, click that button, and you'll be tuned right into the show as we do it live. And also for your added convenience, because I know so many people, like me included, aren't sitting around every Saturday from 2 to 4 Pacific Standard Time listening to their AM radio. So we offer the show ongoing. So if it's Wednesday night or if it's Thursday morning and you're on your way to work or you're sitting at the airport, you can just plug it in and listen to it then. As well as we have a great archive section in there of all our past interviews. We've been doing this for a few years now, so we've built up quite a database of wine experts, travel experts, and the like. But speaking of travel, we've got an expert with us on the line. Ron Williams is with Walla Walla, Washington. What's the official term or your official job title, Ron?
I'm the CEO of Tourism Walla Walla, or Visit Walla Walla.
There you go. So you're the main guy.
I just say I'm the head cheerleader.
There you go. Well, there you go. Well, I'm looking at a beautiful picture of your downtown, and it's on the downtownwallawalla.com website. And the clouds there are stunning. That's just such a gorgeous shot. But I understand there's so many things to do downtown other than just the wine tasting scene, which I want to cover that as we get close to the end. But tell us a little bit about, I see you've got a farmer's market. You're encouraging people who've taken great pictures to post them up on your website or submit them to you guys, as well as you have a bunch of different, like Wheelin' Walla Walla weekend and different things with cars and things like that. What all do you guys do up there?
Well, we keep busy. It's a beautiful historic downtown. Sunset, named us the best small town main street in America, and we get all kinds of awards. It's a historic downtown, dates back to the early 1800s. The state of Washington was founded in a building right next door to where my office is here on Main Street. Beautiful Victorian Italianate architecture. And it was a baking capital, and it was effectively the capital of the Pacific Northwest Territory. So great history, and now these buildings are mostly converted to boutique shops and restaurants. And with the wine industry, of course, comes a great culinary scene. And with that culinary scene, all of a sudden, we've got all kinds of live music and musicians every night. They're up and down Main Street. There are different groups playing. We've got 3 well-respected universities in our very small town. So kind of a great collection of artists and musicians who are professors or students who come and play downtown. There's always something going on. You mentioned the car show, Wheelin' Walla Walla, closes down Main Street for the weekend, and there are antique cars up and down the street and dances and again music. It's getting to the point now where it feels like there's hardly a weekend that there isn't some sort of live event or festival or something going on. And of course, as we get later into the summer, we get into the fair, and the rodeo. Have you ever been to a rodeo, Mike?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, my dad was from Texas, so that was part of growing up. Not that he was in the rodeo, but we would go to rodeos once in a while. I seem to have. Yeah, they're pretty exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. I did not grow up going to rodeos and had no idea how exciting it was to be sitting over the bucking chutes, with the Broncos and the Bulls. And I guess we're the oldest, we're the oldest, fair and rodeo in the Pacific Northwest.
What time of year is that?
That's worth.
What time of year is the rodeo?
Coming up, at the end of the summer.
All right. Gosh.
Into August. Yeah. And then right into that, we're hosting the, National Indian Native American relay races here in the fall. That's going to be pretty exciting. Moved from Billings, Montana, over here, and then we get into symphony season. It's a town of 30,000 people where there's just a huge sort of wealth of art and music and food and culture, and I think that is something that kind of comes from living someplace where you have to kind of rely on yourselves because you are so far from anywhere else.
Well, one of the things I've found that really makes a place special is the people. And no matter where you are and what the scenery looks like, if the community itself isn't, vibrant and it just, good, I guess call it good people just to simplify it, then it's just not a fun place to be. And so obviously the people there are what make it kind of magic as well. I wanted to also congratulate you. What we kind of failed to mention, one of the main reasons that we got you on the line today was you just won a pretty prestigious, place in Sunset Magazine. We've only got a minute left, Ron. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Exciting stuff. We were just named named number one wine town in America by Sunset Magazine. So that's we're really proud of that and honored and I think it got us on your show. So that's great news. And then on the heels of being named by Travel and Leisure as one of the top 30 destinations worldwide to visit in 2018. So it's been a good year for us.
Very good. Well, I encourage anybody to just Google Walla Walla and check out their visitor center and their downtown websites. Ron, thanks so much for joining us. Off to get up there, maybe do the rodeo and do a little wine tasting and hang out with you guys for a while.
Mike, you really need to. That's a sincere invitation. Get yourself up here and we'll have a good time.
Very good. All right, everybody. Ron Williams, Walla Walla, CEO of Walla Walla. Visit Walla Walla. Ron, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye-bye. Ron, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye-bye. Ron, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.